I want you to listen closely because what I am about to share may completely change the way you look at your struggles, your failures, and even your own state of mind. There are two kinds of people in this world. There are those who move through life exhausted and defeated, constantly complaining, simply trying to survive from one day to the next. And then there are those who remain standing when adversity arrives. They smile when others fall apart. They get back up when others give up. And eventually, they find a way to win. The difference is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not education. The difference is something I call a positive mental attitude. And understand this clearly. Positive mental attitude is not simply forcing yourself to think pleasant thoughts. It is not shallow optimism. It is certainly not pretending to smile while everything inside you is falling apart. No. A positive mental attitude is a form of spiritual strength. It is the ability to look beyond the confusion and pain of difficult circumstances and still move forward with faith, accuracy, and purpose. It is one of the greatest antidotes to failure, and it forms the foundation upon which lasting success is built. For more than 25 years, I studied and interviewed some of the most influential men of their generation: Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller. These men created enormous empires not because their lives were easy, but because they developed a mindset that circumstances could not destroy. They did not run from failure. They faced it. They did not allow setbacks to defeat them. They examined them. They did not crumble when pressure increased. They learned how to turn defeat into another opportunity for success. And you can learn to do the same. But before you go any further, answer this question honestly. What is controlling your mind right now? Is it fear, doubt, self-pity, resentment, or is it faith, purpose, gratitude, desire? Your mind never stays completely empty or neutral. Something is always influencing it. If you do not choose what directs your mind, something else will choose for you. If you refuse to master your own thoughts, something darker will attempt to master them for you. I learned this truth when I finally confronted the greatest enemy I had ever faced and discovered that enemy was myself. Listen carefully. Your mental attitude is one of the few things over which you possess complete and unquestionable control. You can control it if you make the decision to do so. That truth can either liberate you or make your excuses uncomfortable, because what you believe gradually shapes who you become. What occupies your thoughts begins to influence what you attract. And what you repeatedly focus upon eventually becomes the life you experience. Perhaps you are saying, I have tried to remain positive, but life keeps hitting me. Then I would ask you another question. What is your definite purpose? No person can build a truly powerful mental attitude without having a goal that burns deeply within them, a purpose so powerful, so consuming, and so meaningful that even failure becomes intimidated by it. Show me someone without a purpose, and I will show you someone who simply drifts through life. And the person who constantly drifts is easily controlled by outside forces. But show me a person who knows exactly what he wants, who wakes each morning with fire in his heart and a clear vision in his mind, and I will show you someone who is extremely difficult to break. If you want to develop a positive mental attitude that cannot easily be destroyed, you must begin by deciding exactly what you want. Believe, without constantly wavering, that you can achieve it. Then take action every day that agrees with that belief. Do not make excuses. Do not wait until motivation arrives. Do not depend on circumstances outside your control. Let me tell you something most people will never tell you. The world does not owe you encouragement. Life will not stop simply because you are struggling. But determination supported by faith has a power of its own. When a person decides that quitting is no longer an option, that negative thinking will no longer control them, and that their mind belongs to them rather than to their enemies, something extraordinary begins to happen. They begin finding the resources they need. The right people begin appearing. New opportunities begin revealing themselves, and strength they never realized they possessed begins rising from within. Even failure begins losing its power over them. But this transformation starts only after you understand one crucial truth. Negative thoughts are not harmless guests. They are intruders. If you allow them to remain, they eventually occupy your entire mental home. If you continually entertain them, they slowly consume your purpose from within. And if you permit them to stay long enough, they may eventually convince you to abandon the very mission God placed inside you. That is why you need what I call mental housekeeping. Examine your thoughts. Pay attention to the conversations happening inside your own mind. And whenever you notice yourself moving toward fear, doubt, worry, or resentment, stop that thought immediately, just as you would stop an unwanted intruder at your front door. Replace it with gratitude. Replace it with faith. Replace it with a voice of strength that reminds you, I was not created to live broken. I was not made to remain weak. I carry within me the same substance that formed mountains, created galaxies, and gives life to the strongest among us. Now, let us confront one of the greatest lies that keeps people weak. I'm simply not a positive person. Nonsense. You were not born permanently positive or permanently negative. You were conditioned. Your surroundings influenced you. Your experiences shaped you. But none of that has to remain permanent unless you allow it to. What was learned can be learned differently. What was programmed can be rewritten. And the key to that transformation is repetition. You become what you repeatedly practice. You gradually believe what you repeatedly tell yourself. And over time, your attitude begins reflecting the thoughts you allow to dominate your mind. So if you want to build an unbreakable mental attitude, begin here. Control what enters your mind. Feed yourself every day with faith, courage, and truth. Speak words of strength even when you are experiencing pain. Read the words of great people until their principles become part of you. There is no shortcut. There is no secret trick. There is, however, a path, and that path begins with one decision. No matter what happens in life, your attitude belongs to you, not your enemies, not your critics, not your past, yours. And that realization is where real power begins. If you truly want an unbreakable positive mental attitude, you must also understand the power of autosuggestion. What is autosuggestion? It is the process through which your subconscious mind becomes fertile ground for either weeds or fruit. Whatever you repeatedly tell yourself, whether it is true or false, your mind begins to accept. It absorbs those messages and eventually begins treating them as reality. Before success appears in the outside world, there is usually a conversation happening within. Your internal dialogue can become the architect of greatness, or it can quietly destroy your dreams. The person who wakes each morning saying, I will succeed, I will continue, I will not allow myself to be denied, begins shaping his reality through the repeated force of belief. But the person who wakes up saying, nothing ever works for me, I'm exhausted, I can't do this, has already surrendered mentally before the day has even begun. Whatever the mind can imagine and believe, it can work toward achieving. But belief must be strengthened every day through repetition. It is not enough to hope once. You must train your mind the same way you would train a muscle, consistently, deliberately, and with discipline. Spend 5 minutes every morning speaking life into your purpose. Do not do it passively. Do not whisper it without conviction. Speak with energy. Speak with strength. Speak with clarity. Tell yourself, I possess more power than I realize. My purpose is stronger than my fear. I attract what I need because I expect myself to move forward. You may not believe every word immediately. That is perfectly normal. The subconscious mind does not transform simply because you feel inspired for a few seconds. It changes through repetition combined with emotion. Repeat the message again and again and again. Continue until the voice of victory becomes stronger than the voice of doubt. Now we can go even deeper. A truly unbreakable attitude cannot exist without self-discipline. You cannot control your emotions if you refuse to control your habits. You cannot maintain a positive state of mind while constantly allowing negative routines to control your life. Discipline is the connection between what you think and what eventually becomes real. Without discipline, good intentions remain nothing more than dreams, and your future continues to be delayed. The men I studied, Carnegie, Hill, Edison, Schwab, did not become successful through talent alone. They succeeded because they learned to govern themselves. They understood that a person who cannot control his thoughts, his time, and his appetites becomes a servant in a world built for those who can control themselves. So ask yourself, what are you tolerating that is weakening your spirit? Which distractions are stealing time from your progress? Which comforts are you holding on to even though they are costing you your future? An unbreakable mental attitude is not created by comfort. It is forged through discipline when pressure is present. It develops when you decide, I will read instead of endlessly scrolling. I will get up instead of staying in bed. I will speak words of strength instead of feeding my complaints. Every time you choose discipline instead of impulse, your inner strength increases. And every time you surrender to comfort and ease, you allow a little more of your potential to disappear. Now let us examine one of the most important truths I discovered through years of studying success and failure. Every adversity carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. If you genuinely believe this, then you can never be completely defeated. You may experience pain, you may fall, you may suffer, you may even bleed, but you do not have to remain broken because you understand that what you are facing is not necessarily the end. Sometimes it is simply the test that comes before elevation. Think about your own life. The lessons that changed you most probably did not come during your easiest seasons. They came when something collapsed. The greatest clarity often does not appear when everything is comfortable. It arrives when the storm comes and you are forced to decide whether you will drown or rise. So develop the habit of searching for something good, even within difficult circumstances. Train yourself to say, this pain is preparing me. This failure is redirecting me. This delay may be protecting me. And when you begin thinking this way, something changes. You become harder to shake. You become difficult to defeat because every time life hits you, you become stronger instead of weaker. Now let me share another fundamental lesson from my life's work. You're not simply a victim of circumstances. Your response still belongs to you. Two people can experience the exact same setback. One becomes bitter. The other becomes better. What separates them? Mental attitude. When life strikes you, you still have a choice. Will you curse what happened, or will you recognize it as a teacher? When someone betrays you, you have another choice. Will you allow resentment to consume you, or will you become wiser and strengthen your boundaries? You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can influence what that experience becomes. That is one of the deepest secrets of positive mental attitude. It does not make difficulty disappear. It changes the meaning you give to difficulty. It does not stop the storm. It teaches you how to walk through the storm without losing your purpose. Now I want to warn you about something. There will be people who dislike the way you think. They may mock your optimism. They may call you unrealistic. They may call you delusional. They may tell you that you are naive. Do not allow their opinions to control you. Many people become comfortable with mediocrity. They develop a habit of hopelessness. And when someone decides to rise while they have become comfortable crawling, that person's growth can make them uncomfortable. You must protect your mind from that kind of influence. Surround yourself with people who speak life. Distance yourself from people who constantly feed your fear. Tell me who surrounds you, and I can tell you something about the direction of your future. Your environment can be stronger than your willpower. If you constantly remain in darkness, do not be surprised when your thinking becomes dark as well. Be selective about what you permit to influence your attitude. because what enters your ears eventually reaches your spirit. And finally, remember this: you do not need anyone's permission to develop this power. You do not need a degree. You do not need a title. You do not need approval. You need a decision to take ownership of your thoughts, a decision to guide your mind instead of allowing your mind to guide you, a decision to become someone whose spirit refuses to be broken. If you make that decision today and say, "From this moment forward, I will no longer surrender my attitude to circumstances. My attitude belongs to me. I will lead it. I will protect it," then you have already taken a major step toward greatness. Because the world eventually responds differently to people who stand tall in spirit, even when their bodies are tired. So, stand tall, my friend. You have come this far, and now we must finish what we started. The fact that you are still here tells me something. You are no longer satisfied with merely surviving. You want to master your life, and mastery always begins with the mind. The finals. Part of developing an unbreakable positive mental attitude is the establishment of a chief definite aim. Without purpose, the mind wanders. Without a burning objective, your thoughts can drift like a leaf carried by the wind, pulled in every direction by fear, doubt, distraction, and weakness. Your mind needs an anchor stronger than comfort. You need to wake up every morning with a reason so powerful, so vivid, and so personal that fear, failure, and fatigue cannot easily remove it. Your definite chief aim is more than a goal written on paper. It becomes an expression of the person you are becoming. It is your identity moving in the direction of your vision. Every person I studied who achieved extraordinary success had something like this. They did not simply wish for it. They did not merely hope it would happen. They lived according to it. Their purpose was not merely something they pursued. Their purpose became part of who they were. So ask yourself, what do I want so badly that I am willing to suffer for it? What do I desire deeply enough that I am willing to be misunderstood, mocked, doubted, or even stand alone in order to achieve it? What kind of life would make me believe that every difficult breath was worth the struggle? Once you know the answer, burn it into your subconscious. Read it in the morning, read it at night. Picture it as though it has already become real. Speak about it with emotion. Write it down as though you were carving it into stone. Because unclear desires usually create unclear results, but clarity gives direction to your entire life. And once your purpose becomes fixed in your mind, like a compass pointing toward the North Star, your positive mental attitude becomes more than protection. It becomes a weapon. Now listen carefully. A person who has a purpose and protects his mental attitude becomes extremely difficult to stop. He may experience delays, but he does not surrender. He may fall, but he gets back up. He may struggle, but he does not retreat. Why? Because he understands that attitude is the hinge on which the doors of destiny move. Your attitude determines whether failure becomes fuel or becomes your final chapter. It determines whether a loss becomes a lesson or becomes an excuse that lasts for years. It determines whether hardship becomes the reason you fall or the force that makes you rise. But you must protect your attitude as carefully as a warrior protects his sword. Defend it against negative influences. Protect it from toxic people. Protect it from poisonous media. And protect it from the harsh inner critic living inside your own mind. Mental laziness must be rejected. Gossip must be rejected. Self-pity must be rejected. Victim thinking must be rejected. Any thought that constantly lowers your strength must be examined. Whatever life places in front of you, take responsibility for your response. Own it, shape it, learn from it, rise above it. Never surrender the meaning of your life to another person or another circumstance. That authority belongs to you. Now let me speak directly to your heart. After spending a lifetime studying people who achieved greatness and encouraging those who had been forgotten, I can tell you this: you are not here by accident. You were created with a purpose. There is something within you that the world needs. Your existence itself is evidence that your life has meaning. but that potential will never fully appear if your mind remains filled with fear, self-doubt, and excuses. Your responsibility is to clean your inner world. Fill your mind with words of greatness. Study the lives of people who achieved remarkable things. Speak affirmations. Take courageous action. And above everything else, choose thoughts that lift you, expand you, empower you, and move you forward. Every time you do this, you grow. Every time you surrender your mind to fear, you become smaller. That is the decision you face every single day. Now, I want to give you a principle that has never failed me. Act as though failure is impossible. I do not say that casually. I say it because fear has destroyed more dreams than failure ever has. Fear of failure keeps people small. And the anticipation of defeat can sometimes be more powerful than defeat itself. But imagine what happens when you remove failure from the equation. What if you tell yourself, I cannot truly fail. I can learn. I cannot truly lose. I can adjust. I cannot be permanently broken. I can bend, recover, and return stronger. That is power. That is where an unbreakable mind begins. Because once you stop being controlled by the fear of failure, you stop hesitating. You move, you speak, you create, you act. You take command of your life. And as you begin doing so, fear retreats, doubt weakens, and circumstances begin responding differently. Confidence has a magnetic quality. Certainty is uncommon, and people who possess both naturally become leaders, not merely because of a title, but because of the strength of their spirit. Now hear this clearly. No successful person truly succeeds entirely alone, but neither does anyone achieve greatness by sitting around waiting for everyone else to believe in them first. You must believe while others laugh. You must stand while others remain seated. You must speak while others criticize. You must lead even while you are still becoming the person you claim you can be. The world follows those who dare to become mentally invincible. So let me remind you of what you now possess if you are willing to live by these principles. You have a mind capable of seeing opportunity where others see obstacles. You have a voice capable of speaking strength into your own soul every day. You can develop a purpose so clear and powerful that fear has nowhere left to live. You can build discipline so consistent that weakness loses its authority. And you can develop a positive mindset so strong that even the greatest opposition cannot permanently stop your progress. This is not merely fantasy. These are principles that have endured. They worked for Carnegie. They worked for Edison. They worked for Ford. And they can work for you, but only if you are willing to work them. So the real question is not whether these principles work. The real question is whether you will use them. Will you rise every day and claim ownership of your attitude? Will you speak with strength even when your circumstances look weak? Will you continue moving forward when every part of you wants to quit? Because if you do, you will build more than success. You will build a life worth living, a life with depth, a life with greatness, a life capable of influencing generations long after your name has been spoken. That is the power of an unbreakable, positive mental attitude, and it can become yours the moment you decide. So I ask you, as your guide, as your mentor, and as someone who devoted his life to understanding the principles of success, will you make the decision? Because the moment you decide, your destiny begins moving in a new direction from this day forward. Let every thought you think, every word you speak, and every action you take send the same message to the world. I am unshakable. I am unstoppable. I am unbreakable. And so it is.